Hey everyone, thank you for being here Tuesday, October 8th for our 6 o'clock town board meeting. Clerk, could you please read the roll call?
Councilman Mikan.
Here.
Councilwoman Snow. Councilwoman Pitt. Here. Councilman McCarthy.
Here.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Here. Please stand and follow us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. First item on the agenda tonight is privilege of the floor with respect to agenda items only. Anyone with a comment regarding the agenda, come forward, state your name and address for the record. Please try and keep your comments around 3 minutes, and the floor is yours. Seeing none, we'll move along to discussion. The financial disclosure is one of the resolutions tonight, isn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought that was part of one of the resolutions. Okay.
Discussion.
Okay. So we'll start with this, and I'll open this up to Councilman Migan. I know you've been working on this, and you spoke to other towns, and the town of
Sure.
Fishkill as well. So we'll start with you, and we'll work our way through the entire board.
Sure. About the financial disclosure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I basically put this financial disclosure together over the last couple months, and I wanted the board's feedback on it. Basically, it would be in addition to the ethics law, or I guess it would be a law.
And we add to probably to our handbook, right, Nancy? Would it go in there as well?
No, actually, it's enough to put it in the town code, so we did this in the form of a local law, just
Okay.
amending the ethics code.
I mean, I'm sure everybody's had a chance to go through this, what I wanted to have changed and what I added as far as financial disclosure, so I'm looking to hear everybody else's feedback, actually.
Sure. Okay, so we can move right along if you like. Councilwoman Snow, would you like to add anything to that?
I think I've read all of this, and just again for clarification, because I know sometimes I think initially there might have been some confusion that this is something that occurs every year, and it's for the
Yeah.
previous year, correct? Okay. So it's kind of like when you do your taxes. You do your taxes, and it's for the previous
Right.
year. So here, we're just going to fill out a form and make an attestation that that's how everything is, and then we sign it, I guess. So it's pretty clear to me.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions on the content, I'd be happy to, speak to you about it.
I think, looking through it for me, and Councilman Migan, thanks for all your work on this so far. I know you've put a lot of attention to it. The one thing that jumps out at me is just the amount of people on it. Even like our private attorneys, our assessor, ARB members, bookkeeper. I would, in my opinion, this is just mine, obviously, I would think that something like this would be beneficial to the town board, planning and zoning. Like, I don't know that we need to have the town clerk or the building inspector, or I would hope we wouldn't need the town justices in there, right? Some of these folks answer to a higher authority than us. So I guess I did read through it, and thanks for all of your work on this. I would just think that, I'd like the board to really look through this so we can get this on the agenda for the next month. So it gives us plenty of time to discuss it more. But in theory, I like where it's starting. I like a lot of what you have here. I just don't know that we need, the highway superintendent or the receiver of taxes.
Yeah.
There's just something to jump out of me. The three major boards I would agree with, there's some form of this financial disclosure in place: town board, planning board, zoning board, people voting on projects, making zoning decisions and planning decisions. And I would imagine we have something in our handbook already, or even in New York State, that really oversees us. It doesn't hurt to add to it, of course. But that would be my addition to it.
So I'll just respond to that. Out of the three towns that I looked at for financial disclosure, town of Poughkeepsie had more people on it
Than this?
than this. So did the town of Southeast, I believe. Town of Fishkill only had it for all elected officials, so that would include everybody that's elected. To me, I think the more the better. I mean, I
Sure.
don't see any downside to asking our lawyers if they, which I'm sure they have nothing to hide,
Yeah, sure, sure.
to fill out one of these disclosures. Or really, the building inspector, it's just something that we put on file, and then when we do get an ethics committee, which I'm hoping that we can get 3 to 5 people on an ethics board,
Sure, certainly.
we will, but I don't see any negative to having it on file. It may seem like a lot of people, but like I say, town of Poughkeepsie was supervisor, town clerk, highway superintendent, receiver of taxes, town attorney, bookkeeper, controller, building inspector, town justices, town engineer, town planner, which I'm hoping that we can have one.
Yeah, it's in our budget. I think we're all excited about
But
that.
like I say, it even has all the boards
Yeah.
on here. Board of Ethics has to fill one out. Planning Board. And I think somewhere in here it says that our law firm has to send out notices by a certain time for whoever we feel should be filling it out for that year. So, but no, I understand. It sounds like a lot, but so far here, we've had nothing. So.
Certainly.
Right?
Yeah, right.
That's just, like I say, my opinion. I don't see the harm in it.
Councilman McCarthy?
Just to confirm, we do or we do not have to have a public hearing regarding this?
We do.
We do. So I've looked it over. I do have some notes I've made.
Sure.
I would like to, obviously we have to advertise for public hearing. I'd like to hear what the public has to see and say. The other question is with the elected officials, what happens if they don't want to do it? There's no repercussion, is there?
I have to go through here, but of course.
Can you force an
there
elected
would be,
official
yes.
to fill this out?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a better question for the lawyer. Maybe she's saying, no, you can't force anybody.
I don't see how you can.
And if we can't, how do we monitor who does, who doesn't? So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
these are
would
some of the
think that-
concerns I
I
had.
would think that the local law would have to be abided by in town hall.
The issue is, though, for elected officials, you can't discipline them or remove them from their position.
Yeah, you only answer to the
So
governor.
what,
Yeah.
if they don't comply, then they're not in compliance, but there's really no repercussion, no.
I'll get the state comptroller on the line tomorrow with an answer.
Hey, Nancy, I have a question for you. I know
I would think it very odd if
no one
that
wanted to fill it
actually
out.
happened. I would really be quite suspicious, and I think that our residents of Pawling would be as well.
Excuse me.
So, just to answer your question.
Certainly. Hey, Nancy, I know this has probably just gotten in front of you. And do you have a copy of it in front of you, Nancy?
Not in front of me tonight, no, but I've seen it.
So are some of these positions, like, for instance, like town attorneys, right, as an attorney and engineers, are they already held to a certain financial disclosure, given your professional positions?
Attorneys aren't, no, not that I'm aware of, but obviously we all have to abide by, avoiding conflicts of interest.
Which, like, a conflict is done, anytime something comes up, there's always a search done to make sure there's no conflict before you're entering any
Right.
conversation.
That's right, we have to do
the
that for
engi-
insurance purposes.
Do the engineers do that as well? Do you know?
I don't
In New York
know.
State?
I don't know.
Maybe you could look into that
Sure.
for us as well and get us an answer, because this is something we'll have back on for November.
Yeah, well, as long as it takes, we're
yeah.
gonna keep at it.
I have a couple of things, too.
Corinne?
Go ahead, Corinne.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Snow.
Oh, I was going to just say, again, different, because, with the school board, the state oversees and mandates things.
Right.
But there were some it was just for the school board, it wasn't for the administrators, just so you know. I mean, again, I know it's different.
Yeah.
But I also think the difference there, which it sounds like it's not for us, is that there were repercussions because that was state mandated versus this that might be a best practice. So I just wanted to add that it's different.
Even being mandated, I wonder, but what would the state do? I guess that would be the thing. We've talked about other policies here and procedures
Yes,
we're trying to do, and then what comes up, Councilman Snow and Councilman Migan, is, hey, how do you enforce this, right? Like, we don't want to just, we have things that sound like a great idea, but if you can't enforce it, then it's not a great idea because there's no way to enforce it. So I guess, Nancy, if you could find out for us also before next month's meeting, like, what level of enforcement there would be for the board if someone wasn't to do something like this. I guess that'd be helpful to know. Because honestly, like Councilman Michael, like you said, you'd be suspicious if someone didn't want to do it, which I agree with you. Why would you not want to do it?
I could just say I have no problem doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't
I would
know.
hope so. You're the one to put it together. But my point is just, if it's something that doesn't give you any ability to enforce, then I'd have to wonder what level of authority is there, right? Is there anything else from the state that we're already abiding by as town board members and things of that nature, Nancy?
Well, the code of ethics certainly, but I think Councilman Migan's point is that even if there aren't any legal penalties or punishments, it's something that people should be aware of if you're obligated and you don't want to comply.
And Councilwoman Pitt, I know you have some things as well.
It doesn't, I think maybe the reason why, I mean, we keep referring it like it seems like a lot, it seems like a lot. I mean, if you go to section 5, which is second to the last page here, this is also combining the Board of Ethics. So the Board of Ethics, which we don't have at this point, that's still up in the air. And a lot of, this, what we're proposing here to a new local law, it's both to reestablish the Town Board of Ethics and to require the filing of the annual financial documents. I just feel that these two topics really need to be separated out for the board to be able to delve into and then to vote on separately, both the Board of Ethics and then this other topic of the annual financial reporting. Because it seems like one weighs heavily on the other, and they are very much intertwined, but two totally different things. Does that make sense?
Well,
It's my doing, Councilwoman Pitt, because they're both part of the ethics law, and the changes to the ethics law regarding the Board of Ethics was just to remove any reference to the joint Board of Ethics, because we had changed our law to include that in there. But, it was just more cost-effective to have one local law as opposed to two, but we can easily break it down into two separate local laws if you prefer.
So Nancy, this traditionally would just run hand in hand, a financial disclosure and a Board of
Yes.
Ethics. Okay, thank you.
But we don't have a Board of Ethics, was my understanding.
But we do have the enabling legislation if we were to reconstitute that board.
Right. But we would have to revote on that board, correct?
On who to appoint, yes.
Everything's in place up until appointing the board, correct, Nancy?
That's right. We have a local law that authorizes the board to appoint a Board of Ethics. We're just changing it in its current form because we had given authority to appoint members to the joint Board of Ethics, which doesn't exist.
Right.
Okay, thank you for that.
so just, I'll go to what Southeast has in their penalties for offenses that Jim was asking me about.
Sure, yeah, fantastic.
Any town officer or an employee who fails to file disclosure statements after notice has been given of the failure to file, or who files an incompetent or inaccurate disclosure statement after notice, or who engages in any action that violates any provision of this chapter may, upon written recommendation of the Board of Ethics, be warned or reprimanded or suspended or removed from office. And I'm not going to read through this whole thing, but then right below it, the board shall conduct and complete the hearing within 120 days. Civil penalty, any town officer or employee who violates any provision of the chapter may, upon recommended by the Ethics Board of Southeast, be subject to civil penalty of up to $1,000 for his or her failure to file a true, complete, and accurate disclosure statement, or up to $10,000 for any other violation. So I'll make a copy of this and put it in everybody's mailbox.
Correct, but does that confirm elected officials? That was my biggest question. I understand employees we have,
Says any town officer and employee. you
Are
a
we
town
officers
officer?
or
I
are we
believe
elected
so.
officials?
You are town officers, but again, you can have a local law that says that, but enforcing it is a different matter.
Sure.
I always thought that the only person who could remove an elected official in New York State is the governor's office.
Right.
Right? So even if you have a law in place, it doesn't make this a bad thing, Councilman
No,
Weigand. But I just, it's one of those things that we look at, and I think we can get through this by the next month and kick a bunch of ideas around it and get this to a point where we can all agree. But I think, Nancy, that's what I was always told through all the AOT training and things that we've done through the years, is that the governor's office is the sole office that has the authority to remove any elected official. That's why you can't control people's hours and things of that nature, because that's the governing body.
That's right.
And another question for Councilman Migan.
Sure.
Section 2, 27.3, Standards of Conduct. Do the other townships that you're mentioning, when it comes to gratuities, gifts, this amount of $75 from any person in any 12-month period, do those other townships have that verbiage as well? Or
Yes.
that dollar amount by chance?
Yes. I mean, I don't remember exactly where that came from. I saw it on more than one.
I think it's in the standard
That's
code
a
of ethics that
right.
the state promulgates.
That's a state level,
And it's
right?
also in the state law.
Yeah,
I think I just added that
$75.
because it said $75. It didn't stipulate that somebody could give you $75 per week.
Right, yeah, no,
So-
that's a standard state thing. They talk about it at AOT every year. That's
Okay.
a number we all gotta abide by.
All right, that's the number, but the period is then in question, right? Some townships may have 75 per month, or,
No.
so we're adding a one-year period here.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, well, Nancy can answer that.
I'm a little lost on the question, but in most legislation that I've seen, there is no restricted time
Okay.
period.
It's just
It just says a
75.
gift of $75.
Correct. Yeah, that's how I've always understood it. I always assumed it was at any given one time, but I guess you could see how it could be perceived if it was every week, like Councilman Migan has said. That would be suspicious.
Well, I mean, I think $75 just in general is too
Yeah.
much myself, but I don't know why anybody would give me $75 and not expect something
Well,
back.
I think it's a gift that's valued at
Yeah.
75.
Whatever,
Yeah.
somebody takes me out to dinner or
Right.
whatever. Does that mean that it could happen every week or every month or once?
I
you
think
know
the
what I
way
mean?
the standard code of conduct is written, it is.
It is
It
what?
does mean that. It could happen, it doesn't have to be $75, like you can't get $5 gift cards to Dunkin' Donuts every week. I mean, under the standard code, it just says $75 and it doesn't have a time period.
Okay.
So I don't remember exactly
So-
where I pulled that off of, but I did see it in a few places.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, in addition, 27.9, like sub 5, a failure to file the annual disclosure form or failure to disclose true and accurate information shall be a violation of this chapter. Are we going to list violations on here?
I think
would
the
that be-
violations are that you either don't fill out the disclosure statement or you don't fill it out accurately, to the best of your ability.
Right, so that's covered in sub 5, but what I mean by a violation is gonna be like what you read from the town of Southeast, like,
The penalties?
A penalty, $1,000, $10,000, the town, it sounds like the town board would do some type of investigation into that.
Or the ethics board.
Or the
For
ethics
South-
board,
so-
right.
Right, but town of Southeast, I heard town board on there. Are you able,
So,
Oh, it's a good
this
question.
town of Southeast, do they have an ethics committee?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
I would imagine if there was a violation to this, that it would go to the ethics committee, correct? Who then would make a recommendation to the town board,
Correct.
right? That would probably be the proper procedure, I would imagine.
Well, Councilman Migan, you'll hand those out, right? So
Could
I'll
you
be able to
guys
read
send
that?
me your questions in email?
Sure.
Yeah, of
So
course.
that I have them.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to remember all these questions.
No worries.
You'll make us a copy. I'll be able to read that then. The town of Southeast,
Yes.
right? That'll be helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was Fishkill's breakdown similar to that as well, Councilman Migan, as far as enforcement, or they had no enforcement listed? Or maybe,
They had much less.
yeah. Maybe shoot both of those over to the board too, so we can kick
Send
these
you
around.
everything
Yeah,
that
between now and
I have.
November.
I really just went to their town page, looked up the code, and have a financial disclosure, but I will put it together and send the different ones to everybody.
Excellent. Councilwoman Pitt, do you have anything else at the time?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So please, like I say, send me your questions in email so I can compile the answers.
Thank you, Councilman Migan. This is a good starting point for sure. Thanks for all your work on this. All right, moving along to resolutions. Resolution 128, payment of bills for the town of Pawling. I'll make a motion for 128. Could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution 133, establishing a temporary building permit fee amnesty period. I do see both of our building and code enforcement officers here tonight, Everett White and Kenny. Thanks so much for being here. Could you get, if you two don't mind coming up to the mic, we'll have a quick discussion amongst the board about this and why we're going through this again. And I thank you both for being here. I know you're busy and Chief White with the fire department and things like that. So thanks for being here tonight. So we spoke about this in the past. I know we've ran amnesty programs in the past. I always go back to Councilman McCarthy and I because we came in together. There was an amnesty program currently in place when we came in to the tune of 600 plus open permits. And we've done as good as we could through the years trying to get those down. But recently, auditing the building department again and looking at how many open permits we have, I believe it's
439.
439. And a couple hundred of those, 200 plus, are expired open
Correct,
permits,
yeah.
correctly? So we're gonna put this program in place, and the hopes of this is that we'll run through and actually send out notices and contact these folks, even by phone call, set up inspection times, get there, close out these permits, and then we can get these files updated, and then also to our assessor's office, so that all these homes with open permits can be properly assessed and on the rolls for the March period when the rolls go in, correct?
That's our goal.
Excellent. I'll just run through the board real quick, 'cause I know this is a big thing, and I thank you guys for all the work you've done on it already. Before I go to the board for any discussion, do you guys have anything else to add? You think we?
Not really. I mean, it's really about getting these guys assessed correctly, right? So it's not about collecting the fee. It's about trying to get everyone assessed correctly so
Right.
we can move forward.
Yeah, the
And
big thing
closing
is
all
getting
these
the houses
permits out.
properly
I mean,
assessed.
439 open permits is a lot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're just really looking to get people in compliance.
Yep.
Sure.
And there's a lot of structures that are built without permits, or that have permits that are open that really need inspections.
Yeah,
Especially if the public's visiting, we
Yeah.
really need to take a look at that.
Yeah, I didn't think any of us realized how big this has gotten to a few hundred homes in Pawling, right? It's a lot. It's a big number. The hopes here for myself, I mean, obviously we'll talk to the board, so my hopes is that we can at least make contact with every one of these open permits before the end of the year, right? Really try and dial in on this and get into these residences, get to these properties, get the inspections done, and then get the paperwork up to Robert and Michelle in the assessor's office. I know we met with them, talked about this process as well. Robert and Michelle both supported it, and they said that as you're closing out, 5, 10, 12 permits to get that paperwork to them right away, so they can keep updating as they go as well, so they don't fall behind. It's a great thing. It's I know it's a good thing for the assessors to update their records as well. So this is the perfect time to try and get this done. I'll start with Councilman Migan. Do you have anything further, inspectors?
You said there's 200 expired. What are the other 200?
Some are just open.
Right, open
which
current
means they're
permits.
Current permits
Okay.
that need to be closed.
They run
Some of it's
12 months.
residential, some of it's commercial.
Yeah. So that the expired ones are ones that have already gone 12 months and not been closed out.
Correct.
And roughly that number's 2 something?
2 and
3
change.
something? Okay.
Yeah.
So out of the 200 open permits, they're in compliance still, right now, because they're still open permits?
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
have a
trying to
year-
understand.
You have 1 year to close your permit out.
So 200 of them have.
They're open.
Okay.
Which means they need inspections. They're going to expire.
Okay,
Right,
I
that's,
see.
and we took that date as of the beginning of the last
Okay.
month.
So there could be more than 200 that are actually expired at this time or
By the
close?
time the end of the year comes around, sure.
Sure, okay.
I think it's a terrific idea, obviously. I just noticed that it said in the resolution 250 per household. I thought we were going to do it by open permit.
Well, I think the important thing to remember is it's really about getting people in compliance. So if we can get them in the door, close those permits out, that's the most important. It's really not fair to, if they're going to let us in the door to inspect, it's really not fair to penalize them more than once. Should they have a deck and a fence, we just want to get them in and close them out and reassess.
Because some of this could have fallen on the contractor, not even been the homeowner's issue.
Could
They
be
might
the
not even have known
contractor
it.
didn't pull a permit, they could have bought the house like that, like,
Yeah. I know,
There's a
I've
lot
seen
of
folks come
contributing
through the door who've hired contractors to do work, and then they come up to complain to us, they say, we're paying this penalty now, and we didn't even know it, and we hired a contractor, and they had no idea.
I mean, it's a contractor's responsibility, it's a homeowner's responsibility to make sure the permit's pulled, but a lot of times the contractor pulls those permits, and whether they do it or not.
Yeah, we
the
find a lot
homeowner
like
doesn't know.
roofing, re-roofs or, simple jobs like a
generators.
generator or gas, gas tank install where
What-
they're expecting the contractor to close the permit
Something
out.
else, Councilman Mike, I know we've dealt with it a few times now, well, more than a few times, I'll say. We have folks sometimes that end up getting a home through a death in the family,
Right.
and then having no idea that this stuff had gone on.
Right.
And then they go to sell their aunt's house or their parents' house or their uncle, whatever it may be, and they're like, wait a minute, what do you mean? This is, we don't even live
What
here.
do you mean we didn't get a permit to finish the
We had
basement
no
and put a pool
idea,
out
yeah.
back? It happens.
And I think it's important for the board to understand too, some folks may actually say, I'm not coming in and you're not coming on my property. And we don't have the ability, right, Nancy, legally to go there, correct?
Right.
So at that point, it's just a matter of taking the information on that permit, updating the file with what we have and getting it to the assessors, because at the end of the day,
just
it's just getting the
closing it out.
assessment rolls proper.
Right.
Right? So, we hope that everyone comes in and realizes, something I've told folks, and we've talked about it here at the board meeting as well, title companies are getting more and more strict. It's much more difficult to get away with things than 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Well, that's what we thought, doing that one fee per household.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Because you
get a
get
lot
folks who
more
haven't closed
people
out
to
permits,
comply.
and when you go to sell your home, the title company's coming in, and if you're getting a mortgage, if you're borrowing money to buy a property, they're coming in to do their own search. They're pulling a municipal search, and if you have open permits or expired permits or work without permits, they're going to flag it. They're not going to loan you
Right.
money on it until
I
it's,
mean,
until it's cleared up.
that's kind of how we came up with the $200 is because, there, as you just said, Mr. Supervisor, is there's people that inherit houses or from their parents, and the parents did a ton of work. And now we're going to fine them each, it's technically $500 fine per permit that's open or actually without a permit. And it's like, you have to have a heart at some point. We can't be asking $500 per permit.
Yeah, because sometimes
It's a
it's
lot
not their
of money.
fault, right?
It's not their fault.
Right, it's out of
If
their
you're
hands.
inheriting a house from a parent or something else, so.
So would 250 be a number that would incentivize people to
I
close
think
this
it would
out?
be more incentive to get them in per household than per
Right.
fine, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Sure. I would love to see this get done before the end of the year. Or I'd love to see everything, and we'll get updates from your department as well. Maybe even weekly, I could come down and see you guys. We can get an update on how many you were able to make contact with.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I know, like Robert had said, through the assessor's office, he said as you're closing them out to get them to him as well. So that'll be really good for us to get these closed out. Thanks so much. Councilman Snow, do you have anything for the building inspectors?
Nope, this is very clear, but just while I have the opportunity, I want to thank you and your department for all that you're doing. In the 5 years I've been here, this is the best I've seen the building department running, so I did want to acknowledge that. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And pass it on to Mary, please.
I had a meeting with Everett today about the building department and stuff. And Everett, how many years have you been with the town?
Going on 17.
17, so he's seen 18 building inspectors in the 17 years that he's been here. And so some of these permits go back 20 years. And so we're not sure how many inspectors were prior to that 17, but we're thinking it's somewhere around 20 inspectors in 20 years. So it's good to have, both you fellas down there and Mary as well doing a great job. It'd be great to get these closed out and start off the new year in a good slate moving forward and really keep it moving. So we don't end up falling back by a few hundred permits again. Councilman McCarthy?
I think it's great. I think the key thing to is to get these things on the tax roll.
Yes.
And whether it's 250 for 2 permits or 1 permit, the key thing is to having these people pay the same fair share that everybody else is paying.
That's right.
On their taxes, so, thanks.
Councilwoman Pitt?
I have no questions, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do we have a second on this resolution yet?
I don't even have one.
Second.
I'll make a motion for 133, establishing temporary building permit fee empty period. Second by Councilman McCarthy. All in favor of 133?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Resolution 134, accepting donation from Schmidt Excavating. Obviously, I'll speak quickly on it, but I won't make the motion for it or vote on it. But I think, Wendell, it was 4 years ago when this came up in conversation, the first time with the Burr House. Do you mind coming up for a second to the microphones? We can just talk about this. I know there was some conversation in the community about this. So I wanted to just speak briefly on what transpired here. I believe it was like 4 years ago, correct?
Yeah, we did the asbestos removal in 2020.
So this house, the Burr House over in Merle Park, has been vacant since the early 90s, correct?
Yeah, it's
Early 90s when there was a fire.
longer than I've been here, so.
Yeah, there was a fire in there, and it has been occupied since then. It's been abandoned, severe water damage, rot, things of that nature. We did the asbestos abatement years ago, and obviously there's a huge cost to demolition and site work and things of that nature. I had said at that point in time at the town board meeting that if the town did the asbestos abatement in a way of helping out the community and the town and not having to spend money on this, I was happy to have someone from my business and my machine go there and work with you guys and try and keep costs down for the town. And then COVID had hit and things happened and nothing ever transpired. The building sat there until a few weeks ago when an entire side of the building collapsed
Yep.
on a weekend all by itself, right? It
Yeah.
came
Yep.
crashing down and because of the decay and the rot. And we got calls on the weekend, myself, Wendell, and our building inspector, Everett White. On that weekend, I said, hey, get over there, get some caution tape up. Obviously, it's a hazard at this point in time. And in coordinating with Wendell and our highway superintendent, Bob Brill, the town brought dumpsters over, they brought trucks over. Wendell had his grounds crew there, and my brother ended up going there and helping them take the building down and load it out to save this money for the community so we didn't have to pay for it, other than the town employees who were already on payroll. So that's what we did. I thought it was a good gesture. It was done, completely for free, especially in an emergency situation where we had a building collapsing in a park. So there was some positive feedback and there was some negative feedback. So just as a precautionary measure, I spoke with our council. They said, you know what, you should have a resolution for this to accept the donation, even though it was done in good faith and for all good intentions. Myself and my family have been donating to the town of Pawling and every organization and this park for 25 years, long before ever running for office. So I didn't believe I was doing anything wrong, especially in a moment when there was a building falling down inside the park. But just to make sure everything is okay, there is a resolution here prepared by attorneys that the board can choose to vote on or not vote on, but I will be voting on it. I think Nancy, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to speak on that. Wendell, do you have anything else to add to that at all?
Yeah, Kevin, our caretaker, is the one that notified me, and then I talked to Everett, and we went out there on a Sunday and put up the caution tape and got everything done.
Great. And it's all cleaned up at this point?
Well, we still have to rake it and seed it, but yes, the hole's filled in and everything, so.
Filled in with soil, so there's
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no hazard, there's no foundation exposed. All the
We do
debris is
have
gone.
a few of the old beams still there, which, we will be getting out of there shortly, but that's all that's left there.
We did have one resident who stopped by during the process who actually grew up in that house in middle school. Yeah, and she
she
works at
lived
one of the
there,
banks
yeah.
locally, and she came by and she said, my family was the last family to occupy this house before the fire. So she grabbed a couple of boards, and she was going to have someone turning into like a shelf and something as like a memento for it, which is
Yeah.
pretty neat because I always wondered who lived there. I mean, I was in elementary school when before that everyone moved out of that place, and then there was a fire and all that stuff. So that was neat to see someone who actually lived there last. So this is for maybe Councilman McCarthy, if you'd like to go for
I
it.
make a motion for Resolution 134 for accepting donation from Schmidt Excavating. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
So from here moving forward, are we going to have to create a resolution for every like event that falls in similar lines to this? How will we?
In the normal course of things, this would have been the kind of thing that we would have had to bid out and get bids. and then approve the work and the expenditure. But this was a weekend, a dangerous building, in a public place, and it needed to be done right away. So the town board typically does approve the acceptance of donations. There just wasn't time to get that done, to remove this hazard and attractive nuisance. So the town board is able to ratify the actions that were taken that day by town officials and employees and approve and accept the donation. That's what this is about.
So I have a couple of questions, I guess. I mean, I appreciate you guys donating your time, the equipment, and the price. I mean, it's terrific. But I would like to see any future donations approved by resolution. We had one recently that you were talking about. This should be, I think through the normal course of business, you just said that it's
Yeah.
standard that any donations get approved by the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this was an emergency.
No,
Yeah.
listen, I looked up under emergencies on our town, on town law. And this doesn't include, of course, any donations. It just includes about bidding. And it says if a purchase or work is required by virtue of public emergency arising out of an accident or other foreseen occurrences, the town does not have to comply with competitive bidding requirements. A careful drawn resolution clearly establishing the facts that bring the emergency within the exception should be adopted by the town board prior to the purchase or letting of the work. So in a perfect world, this says that an emergency happens, it really should come before resolution, even an emergency.
When it's practicable,
Right.
yes, and that's
So-
the way it normally does happen.
So I would like to see all, it should be up to the board. And listen, I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth. I don't want to sound like I am. But any contributions or donations to the town should be brought to the town board by resolution.
That's understood, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any limit on that dollar amount? Or, I'll use an example, I mean, last month, how many truckloads of topsoil did you take off at Aikendale Farm?
I think 6. Yeah.
Am I supposed to ask for a resolution for Aikendale Farm to donate manure and hay off the fields?
You're
It's-
looking at the wrong person.
It's good practice for the,
I'm not looking at anybody, I'm just,
yeah, it's good practice for the board to adopt a resolution accepting the donation.
Nancy, should we maybe, because I can see what Councilman McCarthy's talking about, is there a way for us, maybe we'll do it in the reorg meeting, to establish the necessity for a resolution for a donation up to a certain dollar amount? Like, what if you were going to donate to the
I'd
rec
have to
center for
look
like
into that.
T-shirts and
Yeah.
like if
Yeah,
someone
'cause
wanted to
they're,
donate $50 to rec to a
they're getting
program,
all
you don't want to have
the,
a resolution,
inflatables
right? Is
now.
there
They're all
a
being
dollar
donated.
amount where you say, it triggers?
So does
you know what I mean?
everybody have to do that? Or
right.
The rec department now is getting inflatables by the dozens every day, so does that mean all those have to?
Well, that's why I thought maybe we establish a dollar amount, right? I get it.
Well,
I get it.
Again, I'm going to defer to Nancy because
it's
she's
more
our,
for
she
us.
Yeah,
she
no,
knows the law.
Oh,
Sure, of
okay.
course.
For elected officials, okay.
So
She
is it
doesn't know
just-
the law on this off the top of her head, so she'd like some time
Okay.
to look into it.
So Nancy, just to confirm, is this for elected officials only, or,
No, donations, the acceptance of donations by the town board is something that's just standard. It applies to whoever is doing the donating.
so anybody that wants to donate to the town of Pawling will have to pass a
Right.
resolution
We,
going forward?
you know, there have been times in the past when people have offered money or, say, items for recreation, and we've had to accept them ahead of time. Sometimes people donate money and they want it used for a specific purpose, so that has to be outlined in the resolution accepting the donation as well.
Certainly. Okay.
I was going to just add that, again, I'm agreeing and, echoing what people have said about the donation. I'm going to just explain why I'm going to abstain to this tonight, and it's only because it states in the resolution that it was previously discussed by the town board. And while I understand there might have been some discussions, I'm going to be very honest, I really was quite upset seeing it posted on Facebook before I, as a board member, knew about it. So because I didn't know about it, I'm abstaining, but I did want to give the board the reason why I'm abstaining tonight.
Wendell, do you have anything else for the board?
No,
All right. I get it, Jim, you'd have to call for a vote on it.
Where, Councilwoman Snow, where do you see that in here?
It says, I
It's in the-
highlighted it,
The middle paragraph, the third from the bottom at the last sentence.
but was previously discussed by the town board.
Hold on a second.
So, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the last line of whereas in light of potential danger to the health, safety.
I think it was before you were on the board, Councilwoman Pitt. I see where it says there right here.
Where is it right here? I've read this 3 times, I don't see this.
I think that's meant to refer to the removal of the building itself, not the emergency situation.
But it was a move of the building.
I guess,
I believe once, I don't know if you were even on the board, Colleen, Councilman Snow, was, James mentioned that he, once the asbestos was out, that his company would take it down. And that was years ago, and then,
and I understand that.
Yeah.
I think my point is, although it's an emergency, we've had emergencies at, Whaley Lake Dam at times, and in the past, since I've been on the board, we would get some notification on an emergency. So again, I'm just explaining why I'm abstaining, and I feel like the board needed to know why.
okay. I did make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Abstaining, thank you.
And James is recusing?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Yes, Kathy. All right, next resolution, 135, amendment to handbook regarding nepotism. Again, this is, Councilman Migan, I believe this is one of the resolutions you've been working on, so thank you very much for your work on this. I think there's going to be some discussion tonight as well.
Sure.
I thank everyone for being prepared tonight, too. It's been some really good dialogue between some of these resolutions. Is there any discussion from the board? I guess there will be, correct? Councilman Pitt, Councilman McCarthy,
Yeah. I mean,
Councilman Snow, Councilman McCarthy. Okay. So let's just go right into discussion then on Resolution 135 before we put it to a vote. And I will start with Councilman Migan. Since you've been working on this, I'll let you start with the feeling behind it, and thank you for all your work on it so far as well.
Sure.
And then we'll kick this around as a board as well.
When we approved our handbook this year, I saw in red crossed out something that was taken out at some point over employment of relatives. And I thought it was something that needed to be in our handbook. So that was the premise.
Right. I know there's already been some conversation about this. I know that the department we all keep going back to is rec, because that's the biggest
Yeah.
department that employs somewhere about 25, 30 part-timers in the summertime, right? When camp's in session and we're busy and that thing. I do agree with you, Councilman McCarthy, Councilman Migan, in no one working directly for their department head. We do have it. I think we would grandfather people in though, right? In anyone currently doing it. A big thing for me is I don't feel an issue like, say, in my office or the building department or really any office other than rec at this point in time, because we don't seem to have that going on. But I would like to see this worded so that I wouldn't want to see, Robbins does a great job as our rec director and some of her staff there. I wouldn't want to see any of the staff at rec not have the ability to hire their kids part-time during the summer, because we've all worked at rec through the summers, every one of us, all of our kids and stuff. So if we can just talk about this a bit tonight, I want to get everyone's feedback, because other than that, that's a big department for me. But I'd like to hear from everybody else here. Just wanted to get my thoughts out. You want to have anything else?
No, I don't think anybody should be supervising their own relative.
Sure. Councilwoman Snow?
this has come up, we've discussed it, because as people know, I have had a daughter that has, worked at the rec at, before. The way I've chose to do that is when we do the budget, I recuse myself from the part of the recreation. When there was a time about raises for there, I recused myself. So I think if one does that, I think that's fine.
Councilman McCarthy?
I guess since this is going to be a new addition to the handbook, I guess I have a little bit of problem of allowing, in one way, we're saying it's okay for the people that are doing it now, but we can't do it for future people. So that concerns me. It also refers, the last sentence is that it's in front of the Ethics Board of Ethics, which we don't have right now. So, and I agree, I understand what you say, Councilwoman Snow. I think there needs to be, again, if my daughter or granddaughter wants to work for rec, I know I'm not ultimately their main person, but we oversee all of this.
I think Nancy answered this in the first time it came up.
I have a concern about, that if you're asking me if my wife should be our legislative aide, I would agree 100%, no. But if my granddaughter wants to work for rec,
Could you just speak to this? Because I know it came up 2 weeks ago and you answered, but could you just do it again?
Yeah, it says in the proposed language that it has to be for someone who's in the direct line of supervision in the subject department.
So to build off of what Councilman McCarthy saying, obviously, I don't think this is directed at like your granddaughter or people in my family or Councilman Mygans or anything directly.
It's not directed to anybody in particular.
Right, sure. But I guess my concern is, like I said, the biggest department that employs an additional people is always the rec department in summer. I'm more concerned for the staff at rec, right? I'm concerned for Robin, Kristen, the folks that are over there during camp time. Would this mean that their kids couldn't work at?
Yes.
Because right now, a lot of them, and that's always the way it's been, right? I think if we restrict, I would like to see rec taken out of this, just so you can see where I'm going with this. We have a thriving recreational department. We have a big staff there. And we have really great folks working at rec in the summertime because they're able to have their kids either there or working as lifeguards or camp counselors and things of that nature. So I wouldn't want to see any of our staff who works for us in the summer turn around and say, because I don't think other rec departments do this in other towns. So I wouldn't want to see them say, hey, I got to take a job working in another rec department as a camp counselor thing is because my kid can't work here part-time for, 4 weeks in the summertime, whatever it may be. So I think if we could somehow reword this to pull that department out, it would, I would support it. But Councilwoman Pitt, do you have anything to add to this?
I do. I think I'm looking at it maybe just a little bit differently and not so much short-term as to what we're dealing with now and the size of our departments now. I'm thinking more of if this is put in place for maybe how it'll affect things in the future, how the town grows and department shifts, so on and so forth. For example, it's not, I don't feel we should pull out just specific departments. I feel it's an all or nothing. Like, for example, Wendell's department, he has several employees working for him. I'm not going to be, and listen, I've read this several times, and I've tried to come up with maybe different wording that would fit with the way that I am looking at this, and I can't seem to find it at this point. I mean, folks like what Councilwoman Snow had just mentioned, if something is pertaining to your relative or family member or stepbrother, I mean, this is very stepbrother, stepsister, legal guardian, you just have to abstain from the vote, which is
On the budgetary stuff, right?
the budgetary stuff or anything where you feel that there can be a conflict. You have to abstain, but.
Because what's for me, we're such a small community that, we don't have the same ability that these bigger towns have, where they're able to hire from a bigger pool, right? We have so many local people that work in these departments. Now, thankfully, we never had this issue, you know, not that I'm aware of, where there's been an issue with someone hiring their spouse or their kid directly below them in their office, so to speak. I know we've had some part-time things and things of that nature. I think in theory, this is a great idea. I do think it needs a little more work to see where we can get it to where we can all agree, or at least, you know, the majority of the board can agree.
So I just
don't know if it's-
read what I got as a model off the Association of Towns website and the State Comptroller's website. Association of Towns, nepotism, spouses, and other family members of the municipal official may not serve in positions whose duties conflict or appear to conflict within the duties of the official. They may not serve on a commission, board, or body in which the official is a member.
Is that for towns that are first class or towns that are second class or both? So I think, Nancy, I know towns that are first class are held to a different standard than towns that are second class, which we're a town of the second class because of our population.
So I'll just continue with the State Comptroller. As a rule, the model code prohibits a municipal officer or employee from participating in any decision specifically to appoint, hire, promote, discipline, or discharge a relative for any municipal position, or from supervising a relative. If the municipal officer or employees does not participate in a hiring decision that would not supervise the relative, then the model code would not prohibit the municipality from hiring the relative. That's off the State Comptroller. I don't think, I'm with Corinne, I have to say. I don't see a middle ground on this, in my opinion.
Well, I think there's always a middle ground, right? When you work on things enough, you can find some kind of resolution.
I should say, I agree with what she said.
Thank you.
Forget about the middle ground part.
Certainly. Anything else from the board? I don't feel comfortable making a motion on this resolution, so if someone would like to make a motion on this resolution as it's currently worded, they can. I think it needs more work to get it to where it'll work. I appreciate the State Comptroller's office and other communities. I think every town is a little different, especially giving size and staffing.
I think it's pretty standard.
I think we could get this to a point that it fits Pawling.
Appointment of relatives,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
I would agree.
Pawling, Dover, whatever
No,
it is.
listen, I understand, and we're fortunate that we're not dealing with this in any particular situation as a conflict.
And with this, we don't have to.
And I just wouldn't want to see it be an
We wouldn't have to in the
issue.
future.
Would anyone like to make a motion for Resolution 135?
So no, I'm not gonna say anything at the moment.
Okay, so we'll table Resolution 135 for next month.
So just so everybody knows, I'm going to add part of this model that from the State Comptroller's website, just to make it clear that nobody can oversee any employee, hire, promote, discipline, because I don't think that's really spelled out in this.
So we'll table it till next month then as well. All right, the next resolution on the agenda is going to be 136, amend handbook to require training for town board members. Councilwoman Snow, I'm going to kick this over to you for discussion right now. I know this is something you've been working on. Thank you very much for all of your hard work and time spent on this, and I hope that we have some good dialogue amongst the board as well this evening.
Sure. Well, it's another thing of, what is mandated for our other boards, and it's state. It's not any, it's the state that mandates or doesn't mandate. So in really thinking about this, I had said at one of the meetings I had reached out to the governor that she would please consider mandating this. Again, I tried, and, I heard back, and, she's going to take it to her constituents, but
Did they say that they wouldn't do it, or what they were?
they didn't say they wouldn't do it. She said she would take it to her, to the other people in, that she needs to make decisions with. But at the same time, I really did think about the importance of education for this board. Again, we have our planning board and zoning boards that are mandated for 4 hours of training a year. And as we mentioned, and I want to make it clear again, we are fortunate to have training that is online that Kathy sends us quite often, of different training that we can do online. And then we also have the Association of Towns, which I've mentioned, and even since I've been here, it's a luxury to take time off, and not everybody can do that training. But I think it is feasible to do 4 hours of training online, and I think for town board members and those that are going to come after us, it's just really important to have education on the different topics we're going to be discussing. Something as simple as, again, one of the first trainings were, how to be a town board member, and understanding Robert's Rules of Order and conflicts of interest, things we've talked about already. So I think because of that, I thought it would be helpful to have that in the handbook, that we encourage town board members to have 4 hours of training, especially because we do, not only is it mandated, but for the state, for the planning board and ZBA, but if they don't do it, and we've, had one time, they get removed. I'm not saying the town board will get removed, but I think it's that important that I would just like to see the town board take make sure that they do the training. That's all. That's where that came from.
Thank you. And then just to piggyback off what you're saying, I know, a lot of us, most of us go to associations of town. For anyone watching at home, also, it's 3 days. We're in the city in February. And then the newly elected training that you're speaking about, I know we've all attended in Albany in January. And just so you know, so that training, which I actually think is more beneficial than Association of Towns, I found it more educational. You can actually go back to that every year if you'd like. It's actually funny that
I didn't know that.
I didn't know until this past week doing some research on this stuff, and they said actually if anyone wants to come back, you can. I'm like, well, you should let folks know that, because I've spoken to a lot of elected officials the last 7 years, and everyone kind of always agrees that January training seemed more beneficial than AOT. Not that AOT isn't great, because it is, but Association of Towns in February, they jam a whole lot of stuff into 3 days. And sometimes you want to take 2 classes and they overlap and you can't. So, excuse me, but the January training, if anyone wants to go back to it, you can. Every single year you can brush up on things, which I think is fantastic. An issue that I personally see with this, and not that I disagree with further education and training, things of that nature, is we run into another issue of not being able to enforce it, right? Which is unfortunate. There's nothing you can do if someone doesn't do it.
Can I just ask, what do we do with a planning board member that doesn't?
But they're held to a different
No,
standard
but
because
I'm
they're.
just curious, what do we do with them?
So we removed the zoning board member a few years back for not completing training and.
The law provides that they can be removed for failing to comply with their training requirements.
Yeah, I was just curious if we had enforcement in that regard.
Yeah, so we've removed one member for failure to attend multiple meetings and then the trainings and obviously, like as Councilwoman Snow said, this is something for planning and zoning. This is mandated by the state, so we have a little more teeth in it. Again, not a bad idea to keep people going. Last year was the first year that we actually. One of the things we've learned recently at AOT is that some of the larger towns bring down everybody. They bring down planning, zoning, building inspectors,
Right.
their attorneys. And last year might have been one of the first years for us that we actually extended that to everybody, right? I think there's even stuff for the clerks there, Kathy, right, at AOT?
Absolutely.
So this year, moving forward, and we just got Stephanie, we got the dates recently for AOT, correct? What are the dates for that this year?
I think the 16th.
February 16th to the 19th? Yeah. So this is something, again, we're going to extend this, obviously, to planning, zoning. We're actually going to extend it to everybody that we can. Anyone in this town who has classes available to them there is going to be invited down to this training. Another thing that Councilwoman Snow, and I was looking into this, again, because I like where this is going, but I just don't know that we got to find a way to fund this, too. Because if we mandate this, and then board members say, hey, I'm going to go away for something other than AOT, we got to pay for that. So we got to figure out a way to fund this as well, because it's not a bad start at all.
I guess I'm saying 4 hours of training.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think, again, for somebody to take 4 hours of online training, Kathy, maybe you can help me. Do you know how much they usually are, or are they free? I think.
Actually, Councilman Migan is signed up for some classes. How much were those, Marty? $95?
We just signed a voucher for
So
$85.
there were
Like that, yeah.
two
So
accounting
that's Office of the
classes.
State
It was
Comptroller.
$85 each, but I don't know how many hours.
Those were 2 days each, weren't they? Didn't
You
we
know,
look that up?
I'm sure they were,
Yeah.
but
They
wonder-
seem to be extensive.
I wonder how much credits you would get for those two. Like, if you took this course, would it count, if the course took you 6 hours to complete, does that count as your 4 hours, or is like, or is there a
I think
course that
it's
only
a
requires,
set time. They're only going to teach for
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah,
It's
because I'm not
gonna
sure about
be-
the planning and zoning. Is it go by the minute that you're training, that it equates to your hours of training, Kathy? Do you know?
I
that?
would think so.
Yeah.
If you did 6 hours of training,
Yeah.
And I
you're done.
guess my point, James, to that is if somebody wanted to do online training for possibly $85.
This is online, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, this
So-
is strictly online?
No, mine, the one I'm doing
Right.
strictly.
But we're talking about $340 versus,
going to AOT for a
Yeah, no,
couple
but,
$1,000.
yeah, so my point would be though, but what if a council member said, oh, I'm gonna go to a course, yeah, because I know, I think in the last month, we had something from the state comptroller's office about different accounting courses, right? One of them was in, I think it was in like Syracuse. What if a council member said, you know what, I'm gonna go to Syracuse for the weekend? It's great to do the training, but I wouldn't wanna have to pay that bill, all the mileage. This is just my feedback on it. I think
of
we could
course,
work
of
on this a
course.
bit more. But I'll defer to Councilman McCarthy and Councilman Pitt as well to get their feedback.
Again,
And then the AOT training, if you did that every year, which most of us do, would that count towards this training?
yes,
Oh,
oh, absolutely.
okay.
What I'm saying is it's that, and then, but there's also the online training.
Okay.
In lieu of.
Yeah, right, so this isn't in lieu of doing the 3
Correct,
days? Okay.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Go ahead, Councilman McCarthy.
listen, I mean, as our chief knows, I mean, I've taken hundreds of hours of training and hundreds of hours of training under him and other chiefs, so I am all in favor of it. Again, my concern is who keeps track of, did I do my 4 hours? Do we submit papers? The chief always keeps track of, the firemen that keep track. There's also mandates by the fire, things of that nature. I guess, I think it's a great idea. I think my question would be is maybe instead of saying required, maybe it's just something for right now,
Encouraged.
recommended.
Okay, recommended.
That we can, because again, we have
yeah.
no way to.
Recourse. No,
but-
I hear that.
And I think, if I was not to go to any training, I think the public would know that, and come 4 years, they wouldn't vote for me because I'd sit up here not knowing anything. It's bad enough as it is I am now.
The planning and zoning, Kathy, does that go to the planning and zoning secretary? Is that who keeps track of
Yes,
their
she
training?
does keep track of
So
it,
she
yes.
keeps track.
We
Okay.
can all keep track, and we all do, like what classes we take at Association of Towns, but, I just kept that in a file at home. Maybe what we need to do is the classes that we take, we submit and give to,
Someone.
Right. Right.
HR or the clerk or somebody. I think it's a great idea, and obviously, like I say, training is great for all of us. I'll be very honest, I've learned much more from talking to the clerks, to different building inspectors, to different previous board members than any training I've taken. But again, I think it's a great idea. I'm just concerned there's no way to make people do this. And I think, so maybe just
You're right.
make a motion to change it to recommended to start with for the handbook.
And then would you
Maybe we could-
require, is there a benefit to, instead of just town board members making it all elected officials, is there a benefit to having the clerk or the tax collector or even the highway super? Is there a benefit to adding people to this or no?
So I called up the Association of Towns because I was curious about this as well, because when I looked on their website for trainings, obviously, there's the conference, but they also confirmed that their online training, there's no regular yearly training cycle, and they've been really sporadic as far as updating their website and so on and so forth with any online trainings that they offer specifically through Association of Towns, webinars and such. So what she told me, if I could put this in order here, pertaining to town justice, highway department, town clerk, so on and so forth, some of these elected officials hold specific certifications already for their title as an elected official. For example, let's say highway superintendent, an elected official, right? Maybe he has a CDL. He has to do his annual whatever training to keep up with that specific license. Town justice, if you're an attorney. If you're not an attorney, there are specific courses there that you have to take. Town clerk, whether it's new training in records management to keep you up and going as far as certain licenses through the state, vital statistics, record management. So there are no state mandated or job-oriented training that the state pushes out to elected officials. The only way I was told for us to be able to approve a resolution such as this was to establish a local law and then have it approved by a referendum. Is that public hearing they mentioned to me?
A referendum is to put it to the public for a vote, yeah.
For a vote. And so, that all being said, right, you've heard me speak, and as it's been brought up again, there's no consequence. I don't think any of us have a problem with doing a certain block of training, but take it away from this board, and like I said, I tried to look not only now, but also in the future. You know, I prefer there to be like some sort of consequence that has some sort of meaning and teeth behind it. Not just in particular to this resolution, you know, but for any action that we take. So that's where I stand here at this moment.
Listen, I think it's a very good start, a really good idea, and I think it's something that we can definitely get figured out. We probably got to put a little more work into it, now that we've heard everyone's thoughts on it as well, even just maybe with some of the verbiage. Would the board be okay with trying to work on this between now and the next month and see if we can, everyone can kind of give their input, and then we can bounce it off Nancy as well to get feedback, and we'll put it on for the November workshop, Nancy? And we'll get everyone's comments. And this, again, as Councilman Migan requested on his resolution, let's get our comments to Councilwoman Snow in email.
Yep,
This way
that'd
it's-
be perfect.
This way it's
Thank you.
easy for everyone to work on.
Yep.
Because, again, I know, obviously, we talked about the training everyone does already, but it would be good to keep track of some of the stuff, and then we could figure out who actually would track this, where it would go, and how exactly we can make this work out so that it's something that folks would want to do moving forward for sure.
I just have one more comment. They also said you cannot mandate it short of an act of the state legislator.
Right, that's why maybe
Right.
encourage is the right verbiage, right?
Right, well, I
Right.
don't think I ever mentioned
Yeah.
mandate, because I knew that there is no mandate for a town board from the state. The wording encourage, recommend, whatever. And-
Recommended.
And again, I think it's just, personally, I think it's just best practice for a town board. You know, we are the ones that make the decisions, and I think it's helpful that we, and as I've said before, other boards after us are educated to the best that we can be, to be making decisions. That's really where it came from.
It'd be
So
great.
for me, the term mandate means training a requirement, right? That's a mandate. That's how I'm looking at that word here. So that's how I read this resolution, as a mandate.
No, did it say mandate in there? Then
No,
that's
but it
not-
just says a
It's
requirement.
required.
Okay, so, no, so this was never going to be a mandate. This was really and changing the wording is fine, of course. I think it was just more of all of us, just when we can take a class, you know, that we do that, because things are changing. You know, town boards things are changing even in the 5 years, soon to be 5 years that I've been here, that I look forward to finding out more about the different things that are in front of us that weren't here 5 years ago. That's all.
And
So
something else we could consider too, while we kick this around between now and the next meeting, is
Sure.
maybe going to go back to that January course that for the newly electeds, which, you know, we all know is very beneficial. Maybe we could even direct some of this training towards, obviously you can't mandate it, but that would be a great starting point for newly electeds to make sure that,
They take that?
hey, you take this one, right? Because I found that class more beneficial than the other ones even. Now that I know we can go back, I may go back this year to Albany again in January. Because it seems very helpful, but, so let's,
Can I
oh,
ask
go
one
ahead.
more quick question? So why do we even need to have this in a form of a reso? Why can't we just have an internal conversation that says, hey, guys, you know, let's do your 4 hours of training, or remember, hey, here's a great class, like what Kathy sends out. I mean, why does this have to be in a form of a reso, I guess is my question.
I guess my only thought is that it's something we're letting the, you know, community know that we've had discussions about. We're talking about it publicly here, and that it was something we were going to also add to the handbook. Again, a recommendation.
Sure. All right, let's continue this one. Let's have some internal conversations, and anyone, any questions or comments, let's get them to Councilwoman Snow, but please put the whole board on all the comments as well, so we can kick this around between now and then.
Sure, thank you.
And then we'll revisit this one as well.
I do want the board to understand, too, that New York State Town Clerks Association offers status of registered municipal clerk, which is based on extensive experience and education, which I have obtained and maintained.
Yeah.
So
You go every year to that. It's in the
I
fall.
try to.
Yes.
Well, that's the Town Clerks Conference, yes.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Kathy.
How long does that go for, Kathy?
How long does what?
Is
go
it like
for?
a day long or multiple day, or how's that class, how does that work?
It's just from Sunday to Wednesday.
Oh, wow,
It's like
fantastic.
Association of Towns.
Excellent.
Only for clerks.
Okay.
Very focused.
Sometimes some of this training is just even just meeting other council people and supervisors and you know, you have these classes which are beneficial, but sometimes it's nice to run into your peers and they're dealing with a similar situation, whether it be development, planning, you know, comprehensive plan stuff, and then you actually get some good feedback. And you know, sometimes you take on a new project here and you're starting from ground zero, but if you get a chance to speak to some of these folks who already went through it, it gives you a good template moving forward as well. Next resolution for the night is Resolution 137, approving a preliminary budget for fiscal year 2025 and directing a public hearing. When this public hearing would be November the 6th at 6 p.m., correct? I'll make a motion for Resolution 137. Could I have a second, please?
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
So I guess my understanding was that if we had some questions, many of us here last week said we would bring up questions tonight. But I also want to be clear that at the night of the public hearing, are we still able to make any changes?
Yeah, we can make changes between now and adopting the budget.
Okay, I just wanted-
Absolutely.
I wanted just to be
Absolutely.
clear
Any
about
changes
that.
you make, you know, we got to obviously get them to our budget officer, and we got to sign where, if we're gonna make a change that was gonna add to the budget, we just got to find a place where we're gonna subtract from the budget, obviously. You know, we don't have a lot of wiggle room this year because we're right below the cap, which is great. I know I spoke about it last week. A lot of other communities aren't below the cap, so I'm glad that we are there. But let me, Christine, do you want to speak to this briefly? Do you have a minute to pop up to the podium?
I'm just hanging out.
Thank you so much.
Fortunately, we are just under the cap, and as the supervisor said, we can change right up to adoption. We had some changes that were circulated the last week to everyone. But what happens at this point is, you know, if you're adding money somewhere, you have to cut somewhere else. So that's what I was doing Saturday.
I guess that's my concern, you know, that if something else comes up, that we might have to cut because we are so tight. So this is just my thought, and I think one of the things, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I feel that we have been very fortunate to have LaBerge all these years, and I think they've done a great job. And I also want to be clear that this is nothing personal with LaBerge. My own opinion is that I don't know if we can sustain it with how close we are to the tax cap. So again, it's just my own opinion and thoughts for maybe the board to consider is I do wonder if it might benefit us looking forward to hire a part-time grant writer that would be able to follow with the grants that we need and save us a lot of money. So that's kind of, I'm just concerned about how close we are to the tax cap, and I'm trying to look for ways that aren't going to cut employees, that aren't going to cut other departments, but I'm nervous. I'm going to be very honest. I'm nervous with this, and those are just some of my thoughts of how maybe we could cut some of our expenses going forward.
Yes,
Well, I mentioned it last week for quite a period of time. I think that the main problem that the town has is the cost of health insurance. over
Yes.
$1.2 million next year, and it's going to go up. And I run your 5-year plan, and I look at your numbers every month. This is not sustainable. So that's where I'm trying to focus my efforts and, having a budget and a 5-year plan that's sustainable for the town. So anything we can do to work towards that, it's appreciated.
I do have one quick question. Were, not part-time, standby planning and zoning members worked into this last?
What's that?
Were standby planning and zoning members worked into this last budget that Christine pushed out by
Haven't
chance?
heard,
You mean
haven't heard
alternate.
anything about,
Alternate.
Alternate. Where did we end up on that? Did you guys have any discussion on that while I was gone?
No.
No.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
no. But, and another thing I greatly appreciate, if you can let me know about things sooner rather than later, because it does take a lot to massage the numbers sometimes.
Yeah, to move them around. Yes, anyone with any concerns between now and November 6th, let's get them in an email, and let's get them over to Christine as well, everybody. And this way we can see if things are doable, and maybe she can answer some questions. Maybe if there's concerns, that maybe there actually aren't a concern once Christine is able to show you the numbers and certain things, right? Because there's so many moving parts to this budget.
Yeah, I mean, we have an open door policy, so anybody, but I prefer right now, because it's very crunchy as far as we do this in addition to getting out everything that we normally do in a month. So if you can let me know, I'll set time aside for you, and go over anything you want.
That's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know working through the budget process, like you said, is difficult, most difficult for you. If anybody needs any time, which I fully expect, all of us to spend time with Christine, let's shoot her an email or a call and just schedule a time, because some of the stuff does take a lot of work. It's not as simple as just moving something. So it'd be best to just block out, an hour, reach out to her, whether, and make sure you have a certain time of the day that works for you and for Christine, so that she's not in the middle of paying vouchers or working on a 5-year plan or something, and say, hey, you know what, I want to come in, I have a concern about LaBerge or something like that. It's best to reach out and schedule time so that she can have all the data prepared for you, and she can sit there, and then she can block out everything else and spend that time completely with you to answer your questions. So there's no other distractions.
Yeah.
Right, with other stuff
Yeah,
going
you all
on.
have my cell phone, so.
So I share the concern with LaBerge. I mean, the numbers, if you look at them, they're astronomical. And I understand we're getting grants done, but it's still costing us a ton of money. Even matching grants, I mean, we have to look at our own budgets going forward, because we're way underwater at Lakeside Boathouse. I mean, we're up to like a 1.5 million.
And just for clarification, it's a little hard to explain from, an accounting perspective, but the budget that you have in front of you, your capital projects run separate
Right.
from this budget. So if somebody says, show me Lakeside in this budget, it's not in here. You
Right,
have a whole
right.
separate fund for that. But as everybody knows, I have every project that's running, and Wendell has a ton of projects that he's working on. He doesn't get enough credit, as far as I'm concerned. But we have them calculated and tracked every month, so I can show you, and I send it out to you every month, actually, when I reconcile it, like, here's
Yeah, no,
all the capital
I
projects.
see, I
Yeah, so you can see where they're at.
Yes, I do. And as a conservative person, and I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the board.
Sure.
I don't necessarily, I think like this Phase 3 for the boathouse, I wouldn't get involved with, and I said, I can't see any way that I would go with this. It's because we're $73 under our tax cap. We cannot continue to just, unless it's a needed, necessary item. I understand we want to make Lakeside Park nice. I agree with that. But there's got to be a point where we kind of stop the bleeding. That's just my opinion. And I am, even for engineer, grant writer, and no offense, Nancy, a law firm, I'd like to do RFPs to make sure our costs stay in line. Because even with my own bills,
Yeah.
if you don't keep track and you got insurance, the numbers go up quickly, and you have to do
Well, I think we did that.
Right.
We appoint 3 engineers every year at Every York, right? This year we had Zarecki again, LaBerge,
Something's not working.
and who was the third this year?
Ron Gator.
Ron Gainer.
Right.
So we do employ multiple engineers, which is not traditional, right? I mean, most towns have one engineer, and one engineer is a town engineer who does all their planning and zoning as well. So we do approve 3 engineers at our reorg meeting, which has been a normal practice for the last few years. I think, Jim, is it the last 3 years we've been doing that now, maybe?
Who was that, Zarecki?
So we have Zarecki, we have LaBerge, and we have Ron
So
Gainer.
what kind of, and I don't want to get stuck in the minutia, but how does it a third?
No,
I mean,
like
you
Ron
know
does.
what I mean?
Ron does a lot of the work through the planning and zoning. Zarecki's been working on a few of the projects that we received grants from. That he was the original writer of that grant and application with that grant. And LaBerge was doing stuff for us now, but we break it up between 3 engineers.
And
know
Ron's
it's-
been doing all the work for FEMA with the Highway Department for Bobby Brill and.
That's
and
awesome.
So
I
they,
mean, that's
it's,
kind of
yep.
a lifesaver here.
Yeah,
that
for
they're
sure.
doing that
For sure.
in-house.
For sure.
At any rate,
Well, listen, everyone should block out some time
Yes.
and go see Christine. If your concerns, please try and get there in the next week or two and see Christine. I was in this weekend. We were in here on Saturday and partially on Sunday. And believe me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be on the weekend than in the basement of this building with spreadsheets in front of me and sticky notes from Christine.
so while I
Yeah.
have you, I just wanted to ask you, because the ambulance was something that
Oh, yeah,
seems like
that's
it's
another one.
going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned we're trying to extend the contract.
We've reached out to our EMS provider to see, so we have the rest of this year, and then we have until 2026.
Yes.
Yeah, we signed a 5-year contract, which we're very fortunate that we negotiated a 5-year contract with them. As you know, Everett's here, our fire chief tonight. I can tell you, the town just to the north of us got 2 estimates back that were double what we're paying. It's a major problem for towns that are in a year-to-year negotiation. So we were able to lock in a very fair rate on a 5-year contract, and that gave Christine, as anyone her request is, she loves 5-year numbers because she can put them into a 5-year plan. So we have that, and to my knowledge, we're one of the only towns in the county that negotiated that. Thank goodness, because everywhere there, I know County Executive Sue Serino is working on this at the county level as well. All the towns are dealing with these huge increases in ambulance costs, and it's a budget breaker. These numbers are absolutely tremendous.
So we have a number of budget breakers here,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
your 2 main ones are your health insurance and your ambulance. The last time we renewed the ambulance contract, it went up over $200,000. That's why I said when I made the budget presentation that, here's a number I'm concerned about.
Right.
So if we can go out there and at least see if we can extend our contract, at least we know what the numbers are, we don't get hit over the head.
Sure, we can plan out for the years in advance. So I did reach out to Empress, our provider, and got a hold with the higher up. And I said, hey, let's at least have a conversation. Let's see where things are going. I want to see what other communities they're working in as well, so that I can see where other communities' numbers are coming in. It all depends on call volume as well. Unfortunately, the lower call volume you have in a smaller community, the more money they charge you for your ambulance, right? The bigger community, they get a lot of calls, they get a lot of billables, it costs you less for them to be there. We're a small community. But we are actively working on that. We have made contact with them, so we're hoping to have a conversation in the very near future about the potential for extending that and if there's a savings for us going forward.
Great.
Anything else on the board?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
I have a motion for this, right? Craig, we already did it?
And a second.
Is there a second already as well?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of Resolution 137?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Great dialogue, everyone, as well. Thank you. Resolution 138, temporary appointment of a full-time code enforcement officer. Again, Kenny, thanks for being here so much, and Everett, thanks for being here as well. I'll just touch on this. We spoke on this earlier this evening. This is to give that department the extra hours they need so they can actively go after all of these open permits and get these things closed out. I know we have until March to get them done. Our hope is to get as many closed out by the end of this year as possible so we can get all these records up to the assessor's office. So I'll make a motion for Resolution 138. If I could have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution 139, Water District Number 2 change order. I'm going to kick this one over to Councilman McCarthy. I know you've been working a lot on Water District Number 2. Can you just speak briefly on this before we go into the
Yeah,
board as
this
well?
is mostly for some of the meters that were not there and that were not set up properly initially. So this was extra work that the contractor had to do above and beyond the base price that we were quoted. It also does cover some of the multiple times he had to come back for only one person as opposed to doing 4. So this was a final number. This project is completely done. Every single address has a new meter.
Completely,
And they're all working.
household, perfect.
So every single one. So that's just what this additional is for.
I know early on that he had come back, and Jim, Councilman McCarthy and I had the opportunity to meet with him. One of the things they ran into was some of these meters, not that the meter had been moved, but you go into a project and you bid this for a certain amount of meters a day. Now, obviously, nothing is foolproof, but they actually brought in some photos, and they had home numbers with them so they could show us exactly what they were running into. And some of the things that they were encountering was people had done construction work around them where maybe a boiler was in front of the water meter now, so they couldn't get behind it, or people actually finished the walls and they get there and the water meter's inside that sheetrock, and things that you would never know that you're going to have to do until you get inside the house. And at that point in time, what we asked him to do was like, hey, if you run into some stuff, just let us know. And he's been great about keeping us informed as well.
George has done a great job.
Yeah, and this is actually a pretty fair number considering it was 58 meters. I think,
58 total.
Yeah. So some of them were like, when you showed your photos, you say, holy smokes, I don't know how I would get in there either. But I'm glad they're done. I know there was that one house that didn't have one at all, so I'm excited that one is finally online as well. So great, it's another great project that's completed over there. Those folks, I'm sure, got to be pretty happy now. They've got a new well and all new meters and new roads, so things are really shaping up over there in Water District Number 2. All in favor of Resolution 139?
I don't have a motion.
I'll
or a
second.
Oh, Jim did a second, I'm sorry.
And could I just add a piece to that?
Sure, of course, go ahead.
I just also want to acknowledge all the work that our Deputy Clerk, Cheryl Knowles, did with this. She's put a lot of time and effort into this, so I did want to say that before we vote.
Absolutely. All in favor of 139?
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 140, a resolution authorizing the Highway Department and Buildings and Grounds to assist with the Veteran Banner Program. So this is something that came to us very recently. Councilman McCarthy and I spoke about this today. As you know, the community started, it was the Lions Club started the Hometown Hero Banners Program. A lot of towns do it. It's really fantastic. It recognizes, our residents who've served in the military. You've all seen these banners displayed on the telephone poles around the town and village. It was a great undertaking by the Lions Club. What they ran into was it's putting these banners up and then maintaining them through the year if they blow down, and then taking them down and storing them for the winter months. They weren't able to get the volunteers over and over again that they had hoped, and so many volunteered in the beginning, which was fantastic. But it's just difficult scheduling with people's employment and other jobs they have going on. So I know that the Legion, Lou Masella had spoke to them, and they were going to take it on. And obviously, with good intentions, you have folks that want to see this up there. It's just a matter of getting some consistency of who can put these up, take them down, and store them, so that we can make sure this program continues to run, and all those banners that folks donated money for can be displayed around the town. And Jim, if I'm correct, they're going to purchase a safety basket?
They're going to say, correct, a safety cage that has a harness that will be mounted to the forks of either the loader or the backhoe.
One of the highway vehicles. That we
One of the
were
highway
on.
vehicles.
Yeah. And we spoke to Wendell and to Bob Brill, our highway superintendent, and they both agreed that it's not a huge undertaking, right, for our staff to get out there and spearhead this so that we can put these up and take them down. Where would we store these? Somewhere over at Lakeside in the winter months over there?
No, they're going to, the Legion's going to help them as they're taking them down. The Legion's going to take them, roll them up, mark them,
Great.
and work with the buildings and ground during the process of up and down.
Great.
So,
Great.
And we already have safety harnesses.
okay, I think it comes with it, but that's,
So anyways,
okay,
they don't have to purchase those.
okay.
They don't-
You could probably even use this basket, this safety basket, for other things too, changing light bulbs and things at the higher
The
elevation.
lift now, so that's what.
Yeah,
we have for
fantastic.
safety.
So this would give us some more consistency, and other towns, surrounding towns, this is mostly handled by the buildings and grounds crew or the highway departments already. This way, it's not a situation where you run into, you gotta get volunteers and things like that. So it actually is handled through the municipality. So this is what this resolution is for. It's to give us the ability to approve this so that, the highway department and the buildings and ground department and the town board will orchestrate this. Obviously, the Legion will purchase that basket, which we'll have for use, and we're gonna have the highway equipment, and the buildings and ground equipment to get this done every year, for those banners. So I'll make a motion for Resolution 140. Can I have a second?
I'll second it. I also want to thank Chief White and the fire department for donating $250 a year for this process, so.
Fantastic.
And I know they reached out to Everett pertaining to using our ladder truck, but it's fine to put on a star on top of a tree or lights on a tree, but to move a ladder truck that's a 100-foot ladder every 50 yards or 50 feet, it's just not feasible. So this was their way of saying thank you, and Chief, thank you.
Great. Any other discussion from the board? All in favor of Resolution 140?
Aye.
Thank you.
From that one.
Resolution 141, revised capital budget, project budget for Lakeside Pavilion. Again, Christine, thanks for being here. In case we have any questions from the board on anything here on this, I'll make a motion for Resolution 141. Could I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion from the board on 141? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 142, budget amendments for fiscal year 2024. Again, standard resolutions here every single month. Christine, watches all our revenues and our expenses for us, and, we have the ability to go downstairs and see her, every single day if you'd like. So we stay pretty much on top of this stuff, because Christine, thanks for always doing this. It helps us stay in tune with what's going on, with you constantly being involved, so I really appreciate that. I'll make a motion for Resolution 142. Could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yeah, I think
Oh, go ahead.
so.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I see there's a new part-time clerk for the court.
Correct.
I wanted to bring up the auditor because when I realized we haven't had any outside entity as an auditor, just as the natural course of business. So we're taking $7,000 out of that budget, which I guess was, at one time, is it 30,000, Christine?
Yeah, it's in the budget this year for an audit.
Yeah, so I would like to say that I think we should actually pull the trigger on that one of these years. Just
Yeah, we have it funded
You know
in
what I
this
mean?
preliminary budget that we
Just-
just voted on, so it is in there.
And what is this ink for building demolition? Does anybody know?
It's for the roll-off containers to
Yeah.
move out the Oak Ridge.
Okay.
Get rid of the debris.
All right.
They had to pay for the disposal of the stuff that went.
Okay, I see, I see. I just associated with the boathouse. I thought there was more demolition or something. All right, that's all, thank you.
All right, all in favor of Resolution 142?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and that's it for resolutions. All right, next item would be town board discussion, special consideration, things of that nature. We always have, if we have any new business to discuss, I'll start with Councilwoman Pitt.
Yes, I just have one thing to discuss. Last weekend at the Rotary function up at Lakeside, I met, I may pronounce her name incorrectly, Ingenia Jackson. She is the co-founder and executive director of Camino al Éxito. Hold on one second, please. I'm not pronouncing this correctly. Camino al Éxito Project, which is a non-profit organization based right here in Pawling. So they work diligently to empower underserved youth and their families through essential resources, education, and opportunities. They have already had a profound impact on our community, especially on our Hispanic community here in the village. So she's doing a great job networking and connecting, not only within our own township, but also with non-for-profits within our neighboring townships and over on the other side of the county. And I just wanted to mention that they are having a Hispanic Heritage Celebration on October 26th. That's October 26th from 3 to 6 in the village of Pawling. So that's just a local foundation. They're doing great work. She did want to come and speak this evening, but we had a long meeting here, and I didn't want her waiting for that. And so we will try to get her onto the docket for sometime in November for her to come and for her to really speak one-on-one with us about her non-for-profit. But they do a lot of work at the library, and, you know, it's not just, they do a lot of work supporting our rec department, children with scholarships, so on and so forth. And it's not just, you know, services that are children-based. It goes completely across the board, all age groups, with those who need assistance in our community. So we really appreciate the work that they're doing there. They're a great connection to have, and I look forward to hearing Ingenia speak with us next month. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, and she's been wonderful to work
Yeah.
with, and with Robin even at the rec department, like Councilwoman Pitt has said, you know, it's just such a benefit when they're helping with translations, and if we have flyers going out to our Hispanic community, you know, they're able to help us do that stuff and get it done properly and get it out to the families that they're already working with. You know, it gives us it gives us the ability to reach some of these families that we normally wouldn't be able to within our own community. So
They do a food bank every week at the church on Townsend, I think it is.
yeah, yep.
So they're terrific.
Yep.
Can we add this to our website and Facebook page, this event?
Yeah,
Are we
we
like-
can definitely push the event out for sure, right? Yeah, Stephanie?
And we also, to Councilman McCarthy's point, we do have a section on the website for non-for-profits, I believe in a drop-down, so we can make a recommendation for this one to be added as well.
And I
Great.
was going to just add, they've been involved, they've been everywhere, and they've come to Rotary, and Ingenia herself, with her help and helping us have this time our flyers in Spanish as well.
Yeah.
And also, she brought different sponsors from the local shops and restaurants in the community that didn't know about sponsorship, so they sponsored. So thank you. She's been wonderful, and they've been really doing their due diligence, getting to know everybody and wanting to help. So it is great.
Hopefully in the future, something else we can work with them. I know one of the things that they're all looking for as well is to try and find like a meeting space, something they can utilize as their foundation grows, and they're so involved in the community in every aspect. So something I think, you know, the board, we should really think about, take a look at some of our properties and buildings and meeting places, and if we can help them out in some way, because I know they're meeting probably at someone's home or at the library and you know, random places, but it'd be nice as they continue to be involved and their outreach grows, it'd be nice to be able to help them get a consistency, you know, a place that they can have their meetings at, whether they're monthly or bi-monthly or whatever it may be. So just something to consider moving forward. Anything else, Councilwoman Pitt?
No, thank you.
Councilman McCarthy?
The only question I have is pertaining to going forward with donations. Can I make a motion to allow Aikendale Farm to donate topsoil next week? Because Wendell's going to need it to finish the. So
To accept the donation.
can I make a motion to?
To accept the donation.
Accept the donation from Aikendale Farm.
Oh, you need topsoil for like next week?
Yeah, we
Oh,
were gonna.
oh, okay. Oh, I got you. All right.
Oh, Christine wants to say something.
Just wanted to add, when you make a motion and accept a donation, it's helpful to me if you put an estimated dollar value to it, because when I know of a donation, I should be recording it.
Okay, thank you.
We also have one here from the fire department for $250.
Yeah, but I don't think those matter. I think it only matters from the board. Or is it every donation, Nancy? Is it every donation that comes in?
The
Well, that
town law
one-
says the town board can
That one
accept
was-
donations.
That was in the
It doesn't-
resolution.
That was in the resolution.
That was in the
though, that we
resolution.
just
Yeah.
approved.
So that one should be okay for the fire department?
Yeah, yes.
So
In the resume, annually.
the fire department was,
I second that, Jim.
but I don't have a value. I have no idea. So,
Okay.
okay.
All right, so you made the motions. You got to call them. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Aye, thank you. Wendell, you're safe to come next week and pick it up.
What is it, soil?
It's topsoil. That's a nice way of calling it.
Compost?
It's from the farm. You can use your imagination.
Councilman McCarthy,
Can't make the motion.
It's topsoil.
Councilman McCarthy, you want to also touch on the 4 little rabbits that were conveniently dropped off in front of your house today?
Yeah, I mean,
During discussion?
probably I shouldn't, but I guess if people have the need to drop animals off at our farm, or any farm, maybe you should reach out to the farmer owner and not just dump them, because those 4 little rabbits that were dropped off at our farm would not have made it through the night if they didn't come out when my daughter was feeding out hay. So, and I don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of
And if they are
places to-
pregnant, I'm going to be dropping them off at town hall.
There's lots of ways to properly handle this situation, and we've dealt with it with dogs in the past. Just a year or 2 ago, we had several dogs all at once we found right on Aikendale Road.
Yeah.
Councilman picked
Yeah.
that someone had unfortunately abandoned, and today, Councilman McCarthy, there was 4 full-grown, clearly pet rabbits, because when the tractor came by, they ran to that tractor. I think they were probably more scared being out there than.
My daughter was
but
shocked.
You still have them up at the farm, right?
We do, oh yeah,
we posted to
the
social
grandchildren
media.
have already adopted and named them, and
Yeah.
we'll find out tomorrow if they're pregnant or not, so.
So if you have to, listen, if whatever the situation may be, financial situations, home situations, please don't just drop animals off on the side of the road. Even if you reach out to us, we'll try and give you the proper direction on where to go and how to handle it. It's always best not to leave animals like that on the side of the street. Councilman Snow?
Yes, thank you. So it was brought up a little bit before about, and I agree, we need to do some RFQs for all professional services. And that's so much because, again, this is going back a couple of years. I do recall Christine had emailed us that it's best practice to do it every 3 years. So I would like to do whatever we need to do just so we're following from our audit and get that done. I think the other thing, too, I'm just thinking of things that, like, trying to just follow up with. We've also been, it's been mentioned by Christine that it would be really best practice to have a finance committee. So again, just something as we're thinking of things that to follow up on. And lastly, there's just congratulations I wanted to Dutchess Auto, John Amachuro, for people that get the magazine Pawling Living. He and his family were on there, and he's been in Pawling for 50 years, and just, it was a wonderful article about their business, Dutchess Auto. So congratulations to John and his family. And lastly, the Pawling Library officially began the process of building the children's wing. So congratulations to them on that.
Yeah, I
And
think they
that's-
brought some soil over to Lakeside. They had reached out. Oh, we need a donation for the library. Yeah. Well, we didn't realize it, but they did reach out, and I said, listen, speak with Wendell, and we have so many. We're lucky to have a few hundred acres over there. There's always somewhere where we can use some extra soil, and it was a big help to the library. It helped them get rid of it as well. So we were happy to do it, but we'll rectify that as well moving forward. Councilman Migan.
The only thing really that is unfinished business is we keep talking about an RFP or an RFQ for a planner, and nothing's getting done. So whose hands can we put this into?
Well, I think
Ron Gaynor that would make up the wording as to exactly what we need?
Well, Nancy, you could probably prepare an RFQ for us, correct, for the planner?
Yes, I'm sure we can.
Right? I think the only reason it hasn't gotten done just yet, and we did budget for it, so it's in the budget.
We need
It's just
it to-
because we're in the middle of the budget process, but.
No, I get that,
It is
but-
something that we are gonna get out this year for sure.
We did hear from Starkdale recently about that they want to come before the town board first. And I do believe we need to be prepared for that
Oh, okay, yeah.
with a planner.
And I think my thought, too, with...
I just don't want it,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Nope,
I just don't want it to be up in the air somewhere. I don't feel like I have the credentials to know exactly, maybe the planning department would, to know exactly what we need and we can specify. But it doesn't, I think it does need to get done sooner than
Absolutely.
later.
we'll get an email out tomorrow. Nancy, we'll speak tomorrow on this too.
Okay.
I'm sure there may be a template of some sort that you guys have from other towns. you
I
work
did,
with.
I did scour the web and found a few, nothing directly on point, but there were some things that we can pull
Great.
from.
We'll talk about this tomorrow then, and we'll get it out to the whole board as well.
Would Ron Gaynor have a more specific knowledge of exactly what we needed? Now, I don't know.
I mean, I would certainly include him. He's the planning and zoning
Yeah, I
engineer, for sure.
appreciate that.
I think more for a job description, only because we've never had one before. So I think any help with, as we're putting this out, it would be helpful to have a job description of what the
Yeah.
planner would do.
So maybe we include Mike Lagori, the planning and zoning attorney as well, Nancy, and Ron Gaynor. And
Sure.
We
That
should
would
be able to
be-
get all the direction we need, and we'll try and get that done, for you.
Thank you.
You got it.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, next item would be privilege of the floor with respect to agenda and non-agenda items. Please keep your comments around 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the medical, financial, credit, employment history or of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.